What's going on? This is a Sports Card Grinders show. I'm Dean. I'll be hosting this shindig. Going to introduce my comrades in just a second. What are we talking about today? We're going to be talking about the Topps Project 2020 cards, PSA 9s versus PSA 10s, the Market Movers tool. We're going to be talking about that as well. Of course, if you guys are not aware of sportscardinvestor.com, we Market Mover tool all the time. It's being used over there. Use the promo code GRINDERS to get 20% off your first month to check that out. We're going to dig into basketball cards as well as some NFL cards soon enough. With that, let's talk to my colleagues. Batting first, leading off, it's going to be Mike Sommer, returning. No, not a returning champion. You weren't here last week, but 2 weeks ago. Mike Sommer, of course, from WaxPackHero.com. What's going on, Mike?
Hey, how's it going? Glad to be back.
Happy to have you. And you're going to be talking to us a variety of things, but I teased it already. The Topps Project 2020, we're going to be focusing on that soon enough.
Yeah, Project 2020 is one of those things that has really taken the hobby by storm over the last few weeks. And it's had some highs and it's had some lows, but it's been an interesting case study when it comes to checking out a new direct-to-consumer product from Topps and trying to figure out where in the world these prices are going to go.
Let's bring in Josh Wysocki, an RG contributor here. What is your article you're working on now? I know you're working on a series of some sort as far as the Prizm rookies, which rookies to target in each specific class. Is that what we're talking about?
Yep. Hey, Dean. Glad to be back. Yeah, we're going to start highlighting Prizm. 2012 was the first year of Prizm, so it's a pretty unique set. And we're just going to talk about a bunch of guys, rookie cards from that year, and also some base cards as well.
Brennan Ruby, another RG contributor. What's up, Brennan? How we doing?
Doing good. Glad to be back.
Simon, you want to talk about? We're going to talk about. We're going to feature your article. Get those clicks targeting PSA grading 9 versus 10. Give a little tease, Simon. What are we going to talk about soon enough?
Yeah, just looking at the price trends and how the price action on PSA 9s tends to follow PSA 10s, and how sometimes the 10s can take off a little bit early and leave the 9s behind, leaving a good buying opportunity to take advantage of that lag.
All right, let's bring you back, Mike, because we were talking about this pre-show, and it's really fascinating. I'm not a current day collector. I collected back in the day. I'm just kind of like getting my dipping my toes in and sort of figuring out what's going on in the industry in 2020. And this whole Topps Project 2020 is pretty wild. It's a concept that's new to me. Explain it for those that are not aware.
Yeah, sure. So at the beginning of 2020, Topps announced this new initiative that was going to pretty much span the entire year of 2020, hence the name Project 2020. And what they essentially laid out for everybody was that they are going to be partnering with 20 kind of iconic, current, culturally relevant artists to reimagine or reinterpret 20 iconic rookie cards throughout Topps's history. And so they laid out the 20 different players whose rookie cards were chosen. And over the course of the year, 2 cards each day, there is going to be a kind of artistic rendition of this rookie card that gets released to the public and is going to be available for sale for 48 hours only. And it will be printed to order. So as many cards get ordered in that 48-hour window, that's what Topps is going to print. And it started fairly early in the year, and it didn't have a whole lot of fanfare behind it. And so a lot of the initial cards, the first 40 or 50 cards, really had fairly limited print runs of maybe 1,000 to 2,000 cards for the most part. A few of them spiked up into the mid thousands or 10,000 or so, but it really had kind of a slow growth to it. And what people started to notice is these cards started to close and those sales windows started to close. People were noticing that on the secondary market, a lot of these cards were instantly selling for $30, $40, or $50. And so people were saying, hey, I can buy this card for $15 to $20 directly from Topps. And a few weeks later, I'm able to double my money. And when you can get kind of a guaranteed double, like people were seeing early on, that starts to generate more and more interest. And so since then, we've seen print runs continue to grow as more and more people became aware of this, up to the point where a couple weeks ago, a King Griffey Jr. card sold over 99,000 copies. And so this has just provided a really interesting case study of rapidly escalating prices, rapidly escalating print runs along with that. And as those print runs escalated, the values then started to drop because so many of these cards were starting to be produced. And it was still kind of a fluid market of where things were going to go. And so that's kind of what we've seen up to this point. We're about a quarter of the way through it at this point.
Yeah, and I'm looking on your website, WaxPackHero.com. It's interesting. And now this is based upon Mike Trout is the most out there in print, which is not surprising at all. And Ichiro and George Brett there near the bottom. Simon, we're going to do a little bit of a screen share. Are we not, I believe, as far as Ichiro and the asking price? And basically, there's not many out there. Therefore, supply and demand, it's costing more money for people.
Yeah, there's a lot less of the Ichiro card that was printed, the first one. The artist was Ben Baller on that one, I believe. And yeah, when it was first released, it took a huge jump. It was up to close to 5,000 at one point. And as the hype kind of ran down on these Topps cards a little bit, it's settled so far around 1,200 for the latest sale. But like that kind of demonstrates the demand that these cards had when they first came out, and people were starting to notice them. And like a low print run like Ichiro had, I think it was like 1,300 or so that were printed of that specific card.
Yeah,
and you can notice oh, go ahead, Mike.
I was to say, yeah, there was 1,334 of that very first Ichiro card. And yeah, what we saw was kind of a super heated market rising. People paid $15 to $20 for this card when it first came out. We saw a rapid rise in price. And since then, we've seen a rapid drop in price, but we're still seeing, just in a few months, people still paid $15 for this card direct from Topps, and it's still selling for, $1,100 to $1,200. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how this stuff plays out over the next several months too.
Yeah, what are we doing at the quarter pole? You're saying, well, basically we have 100 that are already out there, 300 more that are going to be pumped out, 2 per day, as you're saying, Mike. So what do we do? What are we projecting going forward? So like people are aware what the Ichiro card is doing, but of course that was because people weren't really aware that was going down, that was happening, and they closed the window after 48 hours. So only so many were made. And they made so many of the Griffies of certain varieties that therefore supply and demand, it's going to be going down. What is our strategy going forward?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of it doesn't sound great, but I think there's a lot of wait and see still at this point. The first 50 cards before this really started to catch on are still selling pretty strongly. The prices of those have come down some too off of their peaks, but they're still selling pretty strongly. Now, these last 20 to 30 cards, as the popularity really started to pick up, they're at the point now where many of them are selling right around the break-even point. And so that doesn't give a whole lot of boost to the idea of these being guaranteed money or easy flips at this point. As that continues, I think we're starting to see some of the print runs trickle back down to the low 5 figures. We might even start to see some 4-figure print runs again. And as that ebb and flow continues, we're going to see a variety of prices, and it's going to be good to stay and try to track where things are going. The other unique aspect of this, or the thing that adds a little bit of a twist, is because of the popularity increase and because of some of the supply chain issues due to COVID-19, there's a 3 to 4 week lag between when these cards stop being available for sale and when collectors can get them in their hands. And so we've got, 20 to 30 cards that are floating out there in this space where they're no longer available for Topps. Nobody has them in hand. People are still trying to sell them on eBay, but some people aren't real comfortable in buying them because they may or may not get them. And then other people, there's a more limited supply available because not everybody's willing to put theirs out for sale. Just because they've got an order placed doesn't necessarily mean they want to put them out on eBay yet. And so we've got early cards that are in hand with low print runs. We've got cards that have medium print runs that are now starting to hit collectors' hands. And then we have all of these cards that were in the high print run category, but nobody has them to sell yet because Topps hasn't shipped them yet. And so there's so many different dynamics at work. It's really hard to predict where it's going to go, but it makes a really interesting case study in supply and demand. Add on the fact that a lot of these artists have bigger followings than Topps themselves, or as big a following as many of the players that are featured on some of these cards. And you have a new market of collectors, or a new market for these cards that are being introduced outside of the traditional sports card collector. It's really hard to know where these are going to go, but it's a lot of fun to track and pay attention to at this point.
I'm not very savvy in the art world. I'm looking at the list of artists, and it's interesting because maybe it's a small sample size. Like Don C has only 2 cards out there. He's an artist, and 26,000 in print run. And there's somebody named Grotesque who has six cards, but an average print run of over 3,300. Is that because Grotesque had their cards released early and Don C had his cards released late? Is that because Don C is more popular than Grotesque? I don't know. Do you know?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Don C, his first card didn't come out till closer to the middle of the print run. I don't know a lot of these artists either, but they've all got some pretty interesting, backgrounds. Some are tattoo artists, some are clothing designers, some are pure artists, some draw. Like there's a wide variety. I think Don C, he's like Kanye's best friend or something like that. I don't know much about him. One of those hip hop stars anyway. And so, yeah, there's just this wide variety of artists. Part of their compensation for the project is based on how many sell. And so a lot of them are promoting the products or promoting the cards on social media. They've been doing a lot of interviews in the sports card world. There was a ESPN article that was run about the project. And so it's starting to get attention outside of the traditional sports card realm. What will that do to the long-term popularity? That's part of what we'll see play out. If print runs continue to increase, that might not be good for the new cards that come out, but it could add more value to these, first 80 or 90 that had more moderate print runs, and especially those first 50 that had low print runs. There's just so many aspects to this set that are going to play out over the next 6 months that I'm going to enjoy kind of following along for sure.
And they're really cool cards. I'm scrolling through for somebody nostalgic like me, for somebody who used to collect years ago. They're the, reimagining the rookie cards of cards that I recognize. Like, oh, that's kind of cool. That's a nice little twist they had. A question here. So I'm looking at the other players. We talk about Ichiro, we talk about Trout. And we got to find the guy that's good enough that his card's going to have value, but not too good that not everybody's going to want to pounce necessarily. But Mike, here's my theory. Remember this is totally different, obviously, but I'm just throwing it out there. Tell me this is a terrible idea, but I thought of this off the dome. So McGuire's in here, right? McGuire's in here, and the documentary's coming out for McGuire and Sosa very shortly around the corner on ESPN. And Jordan's in his own world, obviously, but I know when the Jordan documentary came out, his stuff spiked. Now, is this a good thought process to say, because obviously Don Mattingly can't have a good week, or Tony Gwynn, Jackie Robinson, Gooden, Henderson, these guys are all retired. They're not going to do anything in the field. Their stats are their stats. Their legacy is their legacy. But can a guy like McGuire get a bump? Can he get a bump from the documentary that's coming out shortly?
Oh, I think that's definitely in the realm of possibility. And I think it could apply to these cards too. We've already seen a big spike in McGuire and Sosa values when it comes to their normal base cards and their normal rookie cards. Those were cards that you could get all day for 50 cents a piece on a lot of online platforms. And they've gone up to $3 or $4 or $5 a card now. And just due to the hype of this upcoming documentary. And so once it's finally out, you could see people, I think, continuing to expand into that. That's one of the most unique things or interesting things about a set like this with wide and varying print runs, is that the cards that were least popular direct to consumer end up with some of the highest values. Dwight Gooden has some of the lowest print runs of any player, some of the lowest, yet his cards are super expensive, especially in that early range of those first Dwight Gooden cards that came out. And so it's kind of got that inverse relationship of popularity in the direct to consumer initial print run and the ultimate value that card sees.
Brennan or Josh, either of you have any experience with these cards or have anything to add as far as the conversation here?
I haven't purchased any yet. I've looked at some of the Griffies because I was a big Griffey collector as a kid, but I haven't pulled the trigger yet. I probably will, just to have for my personal collection. But yeah, I don't know if I'll be looking to flip any of the Griffies, especially the one with nearly 100,000 prints.
Yeah, the number one that came out fairly early, the 6 card overall, just has 2,500 in print. I believe that's an 89 Topps card. You can confirm that, Mike, on my first look.
Yep, it's based on the 89 Topps traded.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, I was kind of looking at that. Looked familiar, so I'm getting a flashback on that. So obviously that's the one. I guess if you want a Griffey card, Mike, right, you're going to buy that one, or that one's going to have more value as opposed to the ones that are coming out later and have more in production.
Yeah, that first one, number 6, is probably in the $300 to $400 range right now, compared to the one that sold 99,000. That's $15 or $16.
Yeah, there you go. I just pulled that one up as well too. Josh, all these pictures are on your website, by the way. You guys can check this out. It's pretty cool. I'm having a little nostalgia moment over here. Don't mind me. On WaxPackHero.com. Josh, what do you have out here as far as the Topps Project 2020 set?
Do you mean Simon?
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Brennan. I apologize. We're over too.
No worries. So I think Mike and Josh are both right. If you're looking to invest, it's not all about print run. Some cards have a low print run for a reason. They just, don't have a great player on them, or maybe the art isn't as appealing to others as other cards. But from my perspective, I think sometimes in this industry, we have to realize when we don't know where things are going to go. And so, if you're like Josh and you want to invest in this into your PC, as a fan, as a collector of the industry, that's great. If you are looking to flip them, then I think you just have to, you have to realize you don't know what you don't know. And this could go any direction. I would think that the best investment opportunities have passed us at the very beginning of this. That being said, I have heard some people say that if you're looking to make money on this long term, trying to put together a full set, either of a player, an artist, or all 400 at an affordable price, that could garner a better return in the long run than these individual cards, especially the higher print runs.
I just did a quick Google. Don C., as he's known professionally, came into the entertainment industry as an integral part of friend and fellow Chicagoan Kanye West. So there you go. He's got a Kanye West tie-in. Shall we move on, Simon? Let's talk about, I know your article is focused on this. We're going to do a bit of a screen share as well. Talking about the concept of PSA 9s versus PSA 10s and the cost of each. Go for it.
Yeah, I wanted to, last week I looked at BGS 9.5 versus PSA 10 prices. And we found that, there might be some opportunity with some of the crossover between BGS 9.5s that might be able to qualify as PSA 10s, depending on, how high the subgrades were on those BGS cards. This week, one of the DFS players, Pigskin Blanket, he's really good DFS player. He also collects cards. He brought to my attention that with the PSA 9s, they tend to follow the price action of the PSA 10s. So when a PSA 10 gets ahead of the PSA 9 and goes on a little, like price run where it might increase due to some hype or some event or catalyst happened, the PSA 9 might be a little slow to follow that. So you have an opportunity to buy those PSA 9 cards before they catch up to their normal price discrepancy with the PSA 10.
So
And
generally speaking, go ahead, Simon.
Oh, I was going to say I have a few examples to show too. The first one, I wanted to look at Michael Porter Jr. He's a popular name on the show. We've talked about him a few different times, and you can see from his chart that his PSA 9 is in a little bit of a different direction than the PSA 10. The PSA 10 has had a little bit of a spike recently where the PSA 9 has remained relatively flat. So I noticed there was about a 33%, the PSA 9 was worth about 33% of the PSA 10, whereas on a normal day, it might be worth anywhere from like 36 to 40%. So if you are able to get a PSA 9 for significantly more than the or significantly less than the normal price gap there, then you could go with a quick flip.
Yeah, I know this is a screen share, Simon, that people can see it out there on the old YouTube, but if you want to check out the article, it's in the article as well, amongst the other names we're going to talk about in a second. Josh, is there a general, I want a rule of thumb. I guess there's not, because Simon's talking about, is there a general rule of thumb is like, okay, this PSA 10 costs this much, therefore the PSA 9 costs that much? Or is it depends upon the player, depends upon other factors?
It depends on other factors, really. Like this Porter Jr. That Simon's showing, it's kind of trending similar, but the 9 is flattening out. Some 9s compared to the 10s is just, some of the 9 lines are just a flat line. There's no increase at all. And that's based on, hype, current performance, things like that. So it really depends on the player, the sport, in season, out of season.
And then you find the same thing?
Yeah, I generally, I generally see it in the 3 to 4 times range. So if you have a $50 PS9, a lot of times you'll see the PSA 10 around 150, which if Simon's quoting 33%, that sounds about right. So that's what you see with the newer cards. With the older cards, they were actually harder to grade. So you don't have as many PSA 10s out there as you do PSA 9s. So I would say that it varies kind of by brand and by year. For a brand like Impeccable or some of the other thick stock cards, the corners get beat up real easy. You're going to have a lot more 9s than you do in a normal Prizm Select optic. So it varies by set and by era of the card. I think for your standard modern Prizm Select optics, you're usually looking at 3 times the value, unless there's something crazy with the population, say a certain card for some reason is hard to grade and there's a lot more 9s than 10s. Then you might see the gap widen because the 10s are much more rare than, say, for the Luka rookies that we've seen, where there's, I think, 80% are 10s. Of the PSA population. So it does vary, but I think, the more data we have to look at, like the Market Movers tool, the more we'll be able to come up with these benchmarks, which will be, I think, huge for investors going forward.
Simon, you have a couple more guys you want to show off as far as the Market Movers. Who else do you have for us?
Yeah, we got Pascal Siakam, who kind of follows that trend that Josh was talking about. It's a small sample size on the PSA 9s, but you can see more of a flat line there. Versus the PSA 10, which has has been rising steadily recently. So there might be an opportunity in a PSA 9 there. It doesn't look like there's a ton of volume on it. We also had, let's see.
I know you have Luka available, and I believe Zion too.
Yeah, if we look at Luka's, let's see. Let me give it a second for it to call up.
You're looking at the Luka Doncic Prizm base PSA 9.
Yeah, Prizm base PSA 9 versus 10. You can notice that the PSA 9 has actually gone down a little bit recently versus the PSA 10, which is on more of an upward swing. So you can see kind of a trend in opposite directions there, which might be worth taking advantage of. It gives you an opportunity to buy a Luka card cheap, much cheaper than a PSA 10, but also cheap compared to the usual PSA 9 price. In comparison to that PSA 10. And the last card, let's see. We
should be a Zion Williamson optic Halo, I believe. Is it Halo or Holo? Halo.
Hollow.
Yeah. I'm looking at my the way I spelled it out. I'm like, it's not hollow, is it? Yes, it is. Apparently it is.
Yeah. No, it's a hologram card. So that's one of optics features on some of their parallels there. But this one, Zion in general has been on a downward trend. But on this particular card, I noticed that the PSA 10 is on a bit of an upward swing. It's only been one sale, so again, the volume is a little bit light, but you can see from the chart, like, just the general trend, whereas the PSA 9 is kind of heading down. So you might be able to catch a little bit of a larger than normal gap on that card on the PSA 9.
Yeah, Mike, if you can share your thoughts on this as far as PSA 10 versus PSA 9. When is the PSA 9 cheap enough where you see a buying opportunity?
Yeah, this is one of those topics that I just don't have a whole lot to say about. Graded cards are not something that I do a lot of personally. I don't typically buy and sell a lot of graded cards. My focus is more on the raw or ungraded cards. And so these guys really kind of are narrowing in on those price trends and those price discrepancies. I think that my biggest takeaway, whether it's graded cards or whether it's any cards, is when you see something that's very similar, but you see a diverging trend, that usually gives you an indication if it might be a good time to get in or get out. And you can apply that same logic like we're seeing here with these graded 9s and 10s.
Brennan or Josh, Simon, anybody else as far as some final words on the subject, or shall we move on?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Josh.
Just in terms of what PSA 10s versus what PSA 9s look like, in most cases, it's a very minuscule imperfection of the card that causes it to be a 9. So in a lot of cases, the PSA 9 card in the slab itself looks perfect. So a lot of collectors or investors are fine with buying the 9 because it looks almost perfect.
We've talked about this before, the concept of breaking open the slab and resubmitting it and hoping your 9 gets upgraded to a 10. And if it all of a sudden does, or even a 9.5, I suppose, it becomes 3, 4x depending on.
Yeah.
And is that something you've considered before? If you even look at a 9 and say, well, to me, it looks like a 10, or it could be a 9.5. Maybe they were a little bit tough that day in the grade. Is that something you consider, or am I just making this up, or what?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on giving the card a good look over, but on some cards, it's probably worth a shot, at least trying it at least once, maybe twice, resubbing it.
Yeah, I mean, if you sample size, if you submit the same card over and over, hypothetically, would you always get the same grade? Probably not. You get a consistency, but there are probably some outliers as well. Simon, you had another word in this.
Yeah, I was just going to say you can find all sorts of articles like this on our sports card section at RotoGrinders.com. We're usually putting out a few articles a week. I think Chief is going to be debuting an article this week too.
Oh yeah.
So yeah. So we got
Nice.
Chief's been big on the in the Discord channel. He's been on a rampage with buying undervalued cards on eBay. So he's a great resource for ideas if you're looking for cards. You just go to the Discord, RG Discord in the sports card channel.
Yeah, and the Discord's not premium. Anybody can join it. It's everyone's welcome. All right, you're talking about articles. That's a good segue here, Simon, because Josh, we teased it before. Your new article, what are you focusing on?
Yeah, we're going to start looking at rookie cards and base cards from Prizm sets. And 2012 is pretty unique. It's the first year of Prizm. The 2011 year was the lockout year, so there were it wasn't a full season. It was also the first year that Topps didn't have the NBA license, so Panini had the exclusive license for NBA cards. So there were actually no rookie cards produced for the 2011 class. So guys like Kyrie
Irving.
Kawhi,
Kemba Walker, Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, Kawhi Leonard, Vukovic.
Yeah, who else?
Those are the big names.
Jimmy Butler. So those guys didn't have a rookie card their rookie season, and they just got bumped to 2012. So 2012 has two really good classes of rookies, and it's also the first year of Prizm. So a lot of collectors and investors are drawn to it because it's the flagship set for Panini. It kind of replaced Topps Chrome, which was the flagship set before Panini started making cards. So guys from 2011, Kyrie's kind of not the hottest seller, but I've seen Klay Thompson, his cards have shot up even though he hasn't played in over a year. Kawhi's the big one from that class.
Yeah.
His silver sold for, I think, 9,000 or 10,000 or something crazy like that, because the silvers also that year were only released in hobby, so they're not serial numbers, so we don't know the print runs, but it's very low. And the only other parallels that year were green, which was retail only, and then the gold number to 10.
Explain parallels to me. What is that?
It's just a variation of the base card image. So there's the base card, which is not silver and just the base card. And then parallels can be different colors, different designs, either hologram, silver, checkerboard patterns, things like that.
Is there one that's more ideal than the other?
Silvers are the most popular, even in today's set. They're even more popular than some serial numbered sets that only have, 50, 100 produced of that particular parallel. Silvers are still very popular.
But you're talking about Kyrie and his card's taking a hit. Here's my speculation. Again, I know nothing, but my speculation is people were speculating that Durant's going to come back. And if Durant comes back, maybe Kyrie comes back, and maybe all of a sudden Brooklyn makes a run. But Durant already says he's not coming back, which tells me Kyrie's probably not coming back either.
I think Kyrie also said he wasn't coming back this year. So
I always assume it was an all or nothing. There's no reason to bring back one. That doesn't make any sense, right? And you talked about Kawhi is, obviously has got a chance at winning a title this year, as well as Davis. And I suppose if you think the Lakers are going to win, you invest in Davis, and you think the Clippers are going to win, you invest in Kawhi. Is it that simple?
Yeah, I mean, from this set, because it's the first year of Prizm, most of these cards, even though they have spiked a lot, are probably still a good investment long term. Just again, because it's the first year, the really good combined rookie class of so many of those all-stars or Hall of Famers. I don't see, unless there's like a total crash, I don't see a lot of these cards just plummeting. So even with the increase, I think there's still, I would consider them a good investment, most of them.
Yeah, Brennan, feel free to chime in as far as your thoughts in this conversation. And also, I believe you want to give a preview as far as you have a Luka market cap article coming up soon enough.
I do. As far as the first year Prizm, I do think it's a good investment, especially if with it being, an older set. I think you can kind of just wait out the ebbs and flows of the market on those cards, but target a couple that you like, write down the prices you're seeing them come in at. And if you can get them at a good price, they're really valuable. And not only the rookies, some of the superstars as well. I think those cards will have value. Your LeBrons, your Currys, any of the superstars in the league in that year, even if they're not rookies, I think will be very valuable because of, like Josh said, that being the inaugural year of Prizm, which is the benchmark, the gold standard in the industry right now. So I do like that set. And I'm curious if that's going to flow over to other benchmark sets. Optic came out a little bit later, I think like 2016. Select came out the same year as Prizm. You've got all these ones coming up now that are new that people love, Mosaic, Revolution, all these sorts of things. Are we going to see a similar trends, just like we talked about with the PSA 9 to PSA 10? Will Prizm start just a waterfall effect of other, big sets, popular sets, seeing their first years raise in value? So it's something to look at. It might be the next wave. Is it today? Is it tomorrow? Is it guaranteed? No. But these are the things you want to think about if you're trying to be ahead of, the curve. I think right now the first year Prizm is caught on and it's still a good investment. But if you want to be ahead of the curve next time, be thinking about how investors and collectors alike will be thinking like this. In terms of the market cap article that I'm going to be doing with Luka, I just finished up pulling together the pop reports for Luka today, and they are compared to LeBron, which is the article is going to be comparing LeBron's market cap to Luka's market cap. It is crazy how many more Lukas there are than there are LeBron's, just because of the print runs of his cards, specifically Optic and Prizm. It'll be interesting to see if that leads Luka to be closer to LeBron's market cap than we would think. That being said, obviously you're talking thousands of dollars for some of LeBron's cards, unless it's a very rare parallel. We're not quite there with Luka yet, so it might not be as close as we think. But I'm interested to see, and I'm very interested to see what the number of parallels does to the market cap as well. If it's very top heavy towards the silvers and the rare parallels, or if it's more spread out with your bases and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be really interesting. That'll be coming out this week. I just got to get the prices in now, which is a little bit tough to track down, but it'll be the first good comparison of new versus old to see, are we overvaluing the newer players, or are, potentially, if they are too close, are we undervaluing LeBron? As crazy as that sounds, maybe we're not giving these greats enough love in the industry. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and any idea when that article's coming out? I know you're still working on it, obviously.
The last one came out on Friday, and I was on a similar pace. So I'd say Thursday or Friday that thing will be out. Friday probably to be safe.
Anybody else have anything to say as far as this topic at hand, or shall we pivot and talk about some football? 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I would just agree. Like with sets pulling along other sets, you see it with individual cards. Like people got priced out of LeBron's Topps Chrome rookie card. So what was his next card? That's started to pull that price up, and then so on, and went to Luka's rookie card. People got priced out of it, so they're going to his second year Prizm card. I agree that the sets could do that as well over time.
Mike, in general, NFL cards, are they being neglected right now in favor of NBA? NBA, of course, coming up around a little bit sooner, the re-up of the season, closing it out as far as getting the champion soon enough. NFL season not too far along, obviously. Would you say, Mike, is it a good opportunity in general to buy NFL cards?
It's usually the best time to buy any sport is in the middle of their off season. We've had a little bit of interest start to pick up with the draft, not too long ago, but the off season is the time to buy any sport. That's usually when the prices are at their bottom. And so, yeah, if you're a believer in NFL, if you're a believer in NFL cards, now's the time to start to pick up on some of those people that you might feel are undervalued or underappreciated or have that potential to break out.
Brennan, you have the same general thought?
Yeah, I have the same general thought. As we've seen many times over, hype and buzz really drives, the markets in the industry. And right now, a lot of us have been talking about basketball and, even baseball with this Topps 2020 and whether or not there's going to be minor league baseball. All those sorts of things have been in the news. We haven't got a lot of real meaningful NFL news yet. And as that picks up outside of the draft, which we just had and Mike talked about, I think you're going to start to see the most desired players kind of hit the same trajectory as we've seen in the NBA. Now, it is worth noting that in the current state of the sports card market, basketball is king. So we're not going to see nearly the amount of buzz that we have with basketball. It's just the way things are right now. And I think part of it, and Simon and I have talked about this in the past, part of it is, in the football industry, the football market, you're really looking for quarterbacks and everyone else takes a back seat. In basketball, you could be looking for any number of guys, whether it be rookies or veterans. So I think you're going to start to see buzz for the NFL, and you're really going to want to go after those quarterbacks and the key position players that will garner the most interest.
So the pool of players of interest in football is almost like just so small. And you don't want every quarterback necessarily, but you had some of the high skill players. We're talking about maybe 40 guys. Is that your suggestion? Like maybe there's just not enough players to talk about. Therefore, that's why. And I'm surprised to hear NBA is king over NFL. That surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, no, and it's more of the number of desired players as a percentage of the total pool. There's so many guys on a football field that can have their card in a pack versus the guys that you want, which are the great running backs, wide receivers, and then either promising quarterbacks or the successful ones. So when you think of the NBA and all the guys that can come out of those packs that have demand versus if I get an entire pack, I could have a really great defensive player, high, nice silver parallel. It's not going to sell anywhere near what you would see in basketball for a player just as good at what they do. So defensive guys in the NFL really get hurt. And then, unless you're scoring a bunch of touchdowns, it's very hard to get a lot of traction.
Simon, jump in here.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that market and you look at the popularity of quarterbacks versus those other positions, and you think that the sports card market is going to continue to just go up, I think at some point there has to be a demand for those other positional players, like wide receivers, especially with their superstar appeal. So I think if you wanted to try to capitalize on that sort of discrepancy between quarterbacks and the skill position players, I think wide receivers would be pretty good to target if you got an idea of a wide receiver that has a good chemistry with a quarterback that's undervalued, or a second-year wide receiver. I've been targeting Deontay Johnson a lot, trying to get his autographed cards. You can get them under $20. Like I've gotten a few of the Contenders Optic autographed Deontay cards for like $10 to $12 range. And then I just bought one, I think an Immaculate collection card for under $20. So you can get some really good cards for cheap if you target those other skill position players. And then you're just hoping basically that the demand picks up so much for football cards or sports cards in general that it rises all ships. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mike, I'm told that Dak Prescott is getting cheap. Is he a buy for you right now?
I am not buying any Dak right now.
Okay.
I don't kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Quarterbacks, we've got a couple decades worth of data that says quarterbacks are the primary source of long-term value and appreciation when it comes to football cards. The position players have some hit or miss, short windows of opportunity maybe along the way. Outside of a few iconic legends like Walter Payton, those position players just don't carry the value long term. And because of that, I've had a hard time finding a lot of quarterbacks even that I think are good buys or that I want to invest in long term. And so I sit on the sidelines quite a bit when it comes to football. And so, I'm not buying any Dak at this point.
Somebody's buying Dak here, right? Who's in on Dak?
I'm in on
Dak.
Dak.
Go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, no, I got Devin, if you can call up the chart. I'm looking at a chart here of this pink line is Kyler Murray's raw 2019 Prizm Silver card. And this black line is Dak Prescott's PSA 10 2016 Prizm rookie card. They didn't have silver that year, I don't believe. I believe silver was the base, or the base is the base. But Dak's rookie card is going, a PSA 10 Dak rookie is going for around the same price right now as a Kyler Murray raw silver card. So I to me, that screams value on Dak Prescott. I'm trying to buy that card under $350 for the PSA 10 Dak Prescott Prizm card. So I'm all over it. I hope like I'm able to pick up like a few of those. But you can also see the Lamar Jackson optic hologram card is significantly higher than those cards. Lamar Jackson had obviously a huge season last year. I think Dak is in line for a huge season this year. I'm not sure what the population counts are of that optic hologram card for Lamar versus the Dak Prizm card, but like if they're anywhere in the same range, and Dak has a huge breakout season, I think there's a lot of potential for that card.
Brennan, jump in here and feel free to add Mahomes into the conversation.
Is Dak even going to be the quarterback in Dallas?
Oh, come on. Stop it. You think Andy Dalton, the Red Rocket, Red Rifle?
Yeah.
He's one of those.
So Mahomes obviously has kind of solidified himself and his career. I think it would take a monumental shift in the current right now for him not to end up as a very successful, possibly one of the most successful quarterbacks of all time. He's still very young, but with the way his trajectory is going, I think you look at a guy like Patrick Mahomes, and you really just have to find him at good prices. But I don't think you're going to see huge dips either. So if you're a fan of him and you want to invest long term, he's already had his breakout. He's already got the Super Bowl. So I still think that he is a good value. But as Simon was talking about, you look at a guy like Dak, whose team is, I think, tied for 6th in Super Bowl odds this year. And to compare him to Kyler Murray, it's not even close. I think Dallas's chances of winning the Super Bowl, according to Vegas odds, is 12-1 versus Arizona, which is 60-1. So, you've got a guy in Dak who's been around in the league. He got a new weapon this offseason. He's got a great running game. He could have a lot of success this year. And one thing that Simon touched on, which was very important, is population counts. His population counts versus some of these other guys is much, much lower. And so if you see his demand prop up this year, like we think might happen, his prices are going to go up quicker because there's less supply. It's a supply and demand thing. His demand goes up. The supply is so small that his prices are going to go up a little bit quicker. So I also am in on Dak. I've got a couple shares. Maybe I'll pick up some more, if I find some deals I like. But I think the key here is, and I actually wrote an article about comparing Dak and Deshaun Watson and their market caps, which you can find on RotoGrinders. And he's selling at quite a bit of a discount to Deshaun Watson, who is actually had a higher population count, and to this point in his career have been pretty similar. Now, Deshaun Watson might be a little bit flashier, but comparatively speaking, he was much cheaper than Deshaun Watson. You would think those two would be similarly valued, especially with Dallas expected to be a little bit more, successful than Houston this year. So I love Dak as well. Mahomes is not a cheap card. So if you're looking to get in at a cheap price, you might want to buy nice looking raws and try to get them graded, or even go to the PSA 9 and not the PSA 10. As we've said, sometimes you can't tell the difference. So Mahomes is a great investment right now. Dak is a little bit riskier, but probably has more upside in the short term. And, I think now's when you got to start thinking NFL, because once we start talking about the season coming near us, the buzz is going to go through the roof.
I'm just curious, Mike. I want to walk it back just for a second. I don't know, but all this Dak shade, are you an Eagles fan or a Giants fan? I think it's one of the two.
No, I'm a Bears fan.
Oh, well, Trubisky's better than Dak. You're just bitter you have Trubisky. Let's be honest. Nick Foles.
No, I would have much preferred that we chose Watson or Mahomes.
Yes. Yes. Josh, your word as far as these quarterbacks. We have a whole other collection we're going to talk about in a second, but Josh, you want to jump in here as far as Murray, L-Jax, Mahomes, Dak?
Yeah, I mean, the NBA cards are really my thing. I am a Cowboys fan, though.
Okay.
So I like Dak as a player. I hope they get everything sorted out with his contract. And, he plays for the Cowboys. If he leads the Cowboys to a Super Bowl, that's going to skyrocket his prices.
Are they still America's team, Dallas? I know they brand themselves as that, but yeah.
I consider they're still America's team.
Well, yeah. All right. 3 more quarterbacks we want to have the conversation. Simon, you're going to open it up as far as Daniel Jones, the 2 New York quarterbacks, Darnold as well, and then Josh Allen. Well, I guess 3 New York quarterbacks. They're all New York, not the city necessarily. Talk to me about those guys there, Simon.
Well, I think they're all on a similar level as far as their talent and their their situations are a little bit different. Josh Allen obviously got Stephon Diggs this year. Sam Darnold, what was it, Mims that they picked up in the draft, and they picked up another one of the old Redskins receivers, Dotson. So he doesn't have a ton of weapons versus Josh Allen. And Daniel Jones, he's in a pretty good situation with good offensive weapons around him. I'm not too sure what the O-line is like this year, but Daniel Jones, I would imagine, is going to be in a lot of shootouts. So, you have opportunities in all those players. I would think that. Let me see if I can call up my chart here. I got a comparison on Josh Allen's 2018 Silver Raw versus Daniel Jones 2019 Silver Raw cards. As you can see, there's not a ton of volume on Josh Allen, but the trend has been up the last few sales versus Daniel Jones, who's been more flat to down. So it might be worth looking into to Daniel Jones if you're a believer in him. If you believe, he can succeed in a big market, have a decent year, and get a lot of buzz this season. Josh Allen probably has the higher likelihood of making a playoff run, and then Sam Darnold is kind of the odd man out, but he's also in a big market. And if for whatever reason the Jets outperform this season, he could end up being a pretty good buy. He didn't even show up when I was when I was doing these charts. I think his price is pretty low. He might be a guy that you're wanting to target in bulk on ComC or something, so you don't have to pay all those eBay shipping costs. But if you can start accumulating Sam Darnold rookie cards, it might be a good year to do it.
All right, Brennan, rank them for me. Your interest: Jones, Allen, Darnold.
So I would probably put them Josh Allen, Daniel Jones, and then Darnold. The one thing that might be working against Josh Allen is if their defense in Buffalo is very good, how much are they going to need him to throw? So in that case, Daniel Jones, if he's always playing from behind, like Simon said, and is in shootouts, his team might not have as much success, but his stats might be much more inflated than Josh Allen's. So if you're someone who values just the stats and don't really care about playoff runs in a Super Bowl, and you're looking to trade midseason during a hot streak, Daniel Jones might be the play because he will most likely be behind more so than Allen. But then Allen got Diggs, who's, in my opinion, one of the best wide receivers in the league. And so, we saw what he did in Minnesota. If he does something similar in Buffalo, certainly the main beneficiary there is going to be Josh Allen. So I'd probably rank them Allen, Jones, and then Darnold a distant third. But like I said, if the Giants find themselves behind a lot, he could have a ton of stats. Even if they're a little bit empty at the end of games, Daniel Jones could have a pretty big statistics year.
Simon having some fun with our show sheet talking about Vegas Dave buying, allegedly, we can't really assume that this is true. Simon, he's saying he wants to buy $500,000 worth of Derek Carr cards, which my first response was like, Vegas Dave deals with cards. And then I realized, in the comment section last week, somebody was telling us in the comment section last week, apparently he was the guy that bought the Trout card we were talking about that flipped for $400K for $900K. So good for him. About time he caught a break. My second response was, if all the Derek Carr cards in the world were accumulated, do they value in total $500,000? Is that possible?
I was wondering that same thing. with it's maybe with all of the one of ones and everything added in there together, that might be possible. But yeah, that's a stretch. He might have a monopoly.
You're saying we have to doubt the credibility of the great Vegas Dave? Is that you're suggesting?
Yes.
So is anybody buying Derek Carr, 29-year-old Derek Carr? I guess he's going to be Vegas now. I guess that's sexier, I suppose, if they're good. Anybody care? We're just talking about Vegas Dave just because.
If he can pull 10x like Vegas Dave is projecting, then obviously it would be a good buy. But Brennan and I were talking, before the show. He's like pushing 30, I guess, and his chances of even getting into the playoffs are slim to none anytime soon. If he did happen to get lucky with a good season with the Raiders and they were actually able to get pretty far, then who knows? But I wouldn't be spending my money on that risk. I'd rather buy my Philip Walker cards than than Derek Carr right now.
You think Philip Walker's got a better chance of doing some things? Well, I guess I'm sure he's a lot cheaper, I would assume.
Significant. Well, actually, I'd say they're probably Derek Carr is probably a little more than Philip Walker at this point. Although there's only one Philip Walker rookie card that I've been able to find, so it's a pretty scarce find to find those Philip Walker rookie cards.
Anybody have any final?
The thing about that is, right, the thing that we can't forget as we're making fun of this is that the downside is super low. Like they're not going to go any lower. I mean, you can buy Derek Carr's rookie cards from a quarter to 50 cents a piece, right? A raw Derek Carr rookie card. So if he does catch fire, your quarter might turn into $1 or $2, right? Not huge money, but on a relative return perspective, it's not that bad. But even if he tanks out and gets replaced mid-season, it's not going to go that much lower than a quarter, right? And so there is a limited downside risk there to take a flyer on somebody like that, almost for fun. You know, you're not going to sink hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but
$500,000
or $500,000.
One person.
But every once in a while, there'll be somebody like that I have a hunch on that I might go and spend $10 or $15 buying up a bunch of rookie cards for a quarter just to see what happens.
Who are those guys? Do you have anybody you can kind of think of you've done that with? And what sort of success have you seen?
I don't have any off the top of my head. You know, there's a few during the baseball season, there'll be a few Cubs prospects or Cardinals prospects that will start to heat up a little bit. And knowing that I've got access to people in Central Illinois here who are Cubs and Cardinal fans, as they start to rise, I'll go buy up a bunch of their base rookie cards for a quarter on ComC or Sport Lots, and then be able to sell them for $1 or $1.50 locally in person and make a quick 30, 40, 50 bucks, something like that. And so I've done that a few times. I can't remember any of the specific names, but it seems like pretty much every season there's a couple of those guys that you can jump on.
I appreciate that you, as a Bears fan, you weren't thrilled about Dak necessarily, but I presume you're a Cubs fan and you're open to some Cardinals. So
I'm open to anybody I can make money on.
Fair enough.
I will say a caveat to what Mike just said about buying those super cheap Derek Carr cards. In this video still that we have, Vegas Dave is holding up a National Treasures NFL Shield autographed PSA 10 card. So that's a little bit on the pricier end of the Derek Carr spectrum.
Well, if we have another toilet paper shortage, I mean, Vegas Dave, worst case scenario,
we know where to go.
He'll be well taken care of. Let's show some cards off. What do they call this in the industry? Getting mail. Does that sound about right? Simon, you were explaining this concept to me before the show.
Days.
Yeah, mail days.
What do you got to show me?
My first one is now this is something that Chief got me excited about, and there was another member of our Discord channel, and we were just like talking about Cam Newton. I ended up buying a 2011 Topps Chrome rookie refractor exclusive Cam Newton. It's actually the elusive PGA 10 card on that one.
Chief, a Carolina fan, just so you know, understand who's telling you about the Cam.
Yep. So, we bought it for like $20 to $25. So there's very low risk there, like with Vegas Dave's Derek Carr cards. So I think with the, like what Cam's done throughout his career and the potential of him to land with a team, hopefully as a starter, that might lead to some price movement in his cards.
All right, Simon, you set the bar. Who can raise it?
All right, here you go. Stick with me on this. Here's my mail day. It is one of the Mike Trout Project 2020 cards. And this is how it made its way back. So I had a customer buy 5 of these, and I shipped them to him in California. And en route, the mail truck caught on fire, got doused with the fire hose. The package somehow still got delivered like 3 weeks later, soggy and soaking wet. And so my customer shipped them back to me. And so when I opened up the magnetic case that they came in, this is what I found. Like the card just kind of separated into pieces. And so, so you've got thick card stock that's all soggy and waterlogged. And the actual picture is in this like thin cellophane film type of thing. So if you ever wanted to see what a Project 2020 card looks like disassembled, this is what happens when a card gets in a mail truck fire, doused with a fire hose, and sits in that soggy, wet mess for 3 weeks.
That's one of one. You can say that's for sure one of
It's
one.
for sure an eBay one of one.
So rare. So do you mail that back and can Topps hook you up, or how does that work?
No, I mean, with priority mail, it was insured to a certain level and that type of thing. Somehow there were a couple of the 5 that actually are still in perfect condition that didn't get waterlogged and soaked. And I don't know how that happened. I've sold those locally to a couple friends who liked the story and wanted to own a card that was part of the mail truck fire story. So it's never had that happen before, but makes for an interesting mail day.
All right, Josh, Brennan, what do you have for me?
Go ahead, Josh.
I talked about being priced out of certain cards, and I'm a big LeBron fan, so I'm definitely priced out of his Topps Chrome rookie card. That's several $1,000s. But I did buy 2 of these. These are the Upper Deck MVP version of his rookie card. I've actually had these for a couple months. I bought them for $60 or $70. They're now over 100 raw.
Oh wow!
Graded in 10s. You could get at least a couple hundred for them. So that's what I'm showing off today.
Brennan?
Yep. So this is proof in the pudding with what we just talked about, but this is a 2012 select LeBron James. So I'm banking on the Prizm trend catching fire with its younger brother that's sitting in the shadows, which is Select. And of course, this is on brand for me. I haven't seen a check from Select yet, but it's got to be coming. But it's in pretty good condition. You always risk when you buy raw it coming in with like a surface issue. I'll probably go to get that graded, but that's certainly not going to be a short-term flip for me. I try to flip on the younger guys with more upside and then park them in proven veterans like Kawhi, LeBron, and now Giannis. So I'll probably hold that, get it graded, hold on to it for a while. But I've got another select coming in. The thing about that set is with guys like Kawhi, you don't have a base rookie card or a base card, but they have an insert called Hot Rookies. And so I've been looking at those as well. They haven't come in yet, but so I'm all in on the 2012 select set.
No mail for me. I did not get any cards in the mail, but I am currently in the process of moving. So I saw some of my old cards just kind of sitting in the closet. And Mike, to your point of like, hey, just pick a player and buy a bunch of cards of them. Here's like 20 John Smoltz 1990 Leaf cards. Very exciting for the people. There you go. Good times.
There you go.
And here's some Randy Johnson 90 Bowman, about 20 of those. I got a bunch of these Jordan cards. Might be worth something. I don't know.
A few bucks each.
I don't know. And this is a fun one. Here, last one for the people. Barry Sanders rookie, 89 score. That's kind of a pretty card, right?
That's a good one.
Yep, that's a good card.
All right, so that's all I got for y'all. Simon, I think you had one more on layaway. Feel free to show that off. And also, let's get the plugs in. Tell us, where we can find your work. They can find you on the Twitter machine on RG. Fire away, Simon. You're betting first.
Just kind of going off of what we've talked about in the past. I don't have a whole lot of faith in Teddy Bridgewater. I like the relationship that Philip Walker has with the coach. They won a title with each other in college, and I think Philip Walker came into the NFL at a time where his style of play wasn't as popular as it is today, and tack on top of that, he was on the Colts with Andrew Luck as his starter. I think there's potential if something happens to Bridgewater where he doesn't perform what they're expecting or whatever, and Philip Walker gets a chance at the NFL level. I think he could be successful. And the only card that I could find, rookie card of his, is this unparalleled Panini card. And so there's several different parallels of this card. I think I got the In Flight, it's called, I believe. But bought that in the $20 range as well. And that's just a shot in the dark. Who knows what would happen with him? But it's a scarce card, and if he was ever in a situation where he got his opportunity and he succeeded in it, then I think having a rare card like that could significantly increase in value versus not a whole lot of downside risk.
Simon, plug away. You don't want your plugs?
And yeah, you can find me in the RG Discord channel. We're always starting good conversations, showing mail day cards and whatnot, and giving each other good ideas. Rhino and Chief and Cam are all in there talking, showing off their cards and stuff. So it's always a fun channel to be in. Also, if you have a Twitter account, you can find me at Yeti Boom Films.
Josh?
Find me on Twitter, Saki21. I'm doing Instagram now. That's Saki Collects, all one word. And my weekly article is on RG.
Brennan?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at the DFS Advisor. And in fact, with all of this data I've started to collect with these the market cap articles, I'm going to start taking different tidbits and posting them out on Instagram. So that's probably the best place to find me, at the DFS Advisor. And I also jump in and out of that Discord as I have time throughout the day. There's a lot of good discussion in there. So if you go to the RotoGrinders Discord chat, a lot of really smart investors and collectors, many of which you're not going to see on any of these videos, are in there and dropping a lot of knowledge. So you can find me in there as well throughout the day.
Mike?
You can follow me on Twitter at the Mike Sommer. You can follow me on TikTok at WaxPackHero. You can go to WaxPackHero.com to see my breakdown of Project 2020 in that article. And I'd also love it if you checked out the WaxPackHero Sports Card Minute podcast. Recently had on Ronnie Barta, professional poker player, Survivor contestant, and he's also an active card collector, tracking down the 1953 top set. And so that was one of my recent interviews on the podcast, but you can find me at any of those places.
I have not really crossed the TikTok streets. What's it like over there?
It is crazy. I have been gaining followers left and right. People are loving that content. It is a little bit of, social media buzz, but it is super cheap, free attention, because it's free and the platform is blowing up. And so I've had a lot of fun creating card content on TikTok. I experiment a little bit of fun stuff with the family. Recently, I saved a turtle out of our local lake overflow, and that view currently has over 500,000 views on TikTok right now. I don't know if that's considered viral or not, but TikTok is a lot of fun.
Just keep saving. Find some more turtles. They need to be saved.
Hashtag save the turtles.
Doing any of the TikTok dances or?
Not dances, but some of the fun jingles or lip sync type things I get in on every once in a while, and so do a daily dad joke every once in a while with my girls, and it's a lot of fun there on TikTok.
Cool. We much appreciate a huge turtle that you found too. By the way, I saw the video. That was a significant turtle there.
You were the 500,000th viewer of that video, apparently.
Yeah,
I'll check it out too. 500,001. I'll make it happen. I'll find it on the Google machine. I imagine I can get there. Thanks everybody for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe. We much appreciate the comments in the comment section as well. We want to do our best to interact with you guys. Let us know what you want to see on future shows. That said, for Brennan, for Simon, for Josh, for Mike, I was Dean. This was Sports Card Grinders. Thanks for watching. We're out of here. Holler.